I was thinking about that video I made where the dog wouldn't go through the door. The owner took the glass out of the door, and the door was closed, and the owner walked right through it because the glass was removed. But the dog had been trained, not intentionally, just from experience. The dog had been trained not to walk through the door when it was latched. Could have walked through, but it just didn't. And we use that, if you'll recall, as an analogy, is how we are trained not to take advantage of opportunities because we have been disappointed so often. And last night, I was kind of laying awake thinking about that, and it occurred to me that it's also true that sometimes the door has glass in it, and we think it's open. We don't even see the glass. I don't know if you've ever had this experience in your life. Well, I hope you haven't, but when you ran into glass, typically somebody has a glass door, they will put something on the glass so that you know it's there. Particularly if it's in a place where you expect to walk right through. But I can vaguely remember having that experience one time. I can't even remember when and where it was, but I just ran into glass and bumped my nose, and it kind of hurt, and I was embarrassed or whatever. But the reason I come up with this is it's kind of, it's akin to a glass ceiling, where you're trying to get ahead in life, but you're being held back even though you're perfectly capable of doing it. You have the merit to do it. You have the ability to do it. But there's something about you that holds you back. Maybe it's your gender. Maybe it's some other immutable characteristic. But people hold you back. But what about a glass door? Now, that's not where you're trying to get an advancement. But that's just a horizontal move. You're just trying to get along, And as I was thinking of that, I said, yeah, I've had that experience many times. Not running into physical, literal glass, but running into those glass doors, figuratively speaking, by way of analogy, when because of my autism, not just me, but other people who are autistic just couldn't get through. They were blocked, nonsensically. But that's human nature. And probably, I think one of the most hurtful, disappointing experiences was not with me, but it was watching kids playing. And there was one little girl, I don't know, she's probably 10, 11 years old, and she seemed to be like she was Asperger-y, autistic, was having a difficult time getting along, and she just wanted to play with the other kids, and the other kids would reject her. And to me, that was so very hurtful because I could empathize with what she was going through. Now, they say people with Asperger syndrome, with autism, have trouble empathizing. We don't understand what other people are feeling, but if we felt it ourselves, then maybe we have a point of reference. And I know that throughout my life, when I have seen people who are lonely or rejected, I would have this terrible sense of empathy for those people. I feel sorry for them. And I remember watching this little girl playing, and I felt so bad for her because there's nothing wrong with her. I mean, there was no reason these other kids shouldn't like her. They just did. Maybe you've seen that. Maybe you've experienced it when you were a kid. So number one, when I came up with 4 glass doors that we run into, we think we can just walk right in. We don't see the glass. We think it's an open space, but it's not. And number one is joining in. And we see that a lot of times with autistic children when they just want to play along with the other kids, but the other kids reject them because, they're kind of weird. They're kind of odd, and they don't want to be associating with them because, well, it damages their social standing. Now, kids aren't processing these thoughts. It's just nature that, we have this hierarchy of social posturing. And I think it's just natural. We just want to fit in. But if I hang out with that kid, they're going to hurt me socially, And again, the kid isn't thinking this literally, but the impression is there. And the other kid, the kid with Asperger's or with autism doesn't understand. They don't see the glass door, but the other kid does. And so he or she is rejected. Very hurtful. Well, adults do the same thing. I don't know if you just assumed that you could have a conversation with somebody. And typically, I don't. As I get older, I'm learning to initiate conversations and to be a little bit more open. I'm learning that to shrink back in my protective shell where I feel warm and comfortable and fuzzy. Yeah, that's cool, but it's also kind of discourteous. I was going to say impolite. So I want to be courteous kind of other people, and I want to have conversations with them. And sometimes it's not me rejecting them, but it's them rejecting me. In fact, typically that's the way it is. I know that I've had conversations with people. I thought it was going pretty good. Then a third person walks up, and the next thing I know, I'm on the other side of the glass door. I'm just totally left out of the conversation. So as long as it's one-on-one, sometimes, not always, sometimes there is no glass door. But when it's more than two of us, almost always the glass door is there. And I got to tell you, probably more often than not, those one-on-one conversations are pretty tough. Not always. I mean, I've been fortunate to have some very considerate people in my life, that are very friendly. But joining in is probably the first glass door. You could think of probably a million more than I have. But I'm thinking also of you've had that conversation where you're sitting there, maybe at a table, and there's somebody to your right side, somebody to your left side, and they're having a conversation like you're invisible. They're just talking right through you. And what I've found myself doing is, say, if I'm at a table at having dinner or whatever, I move back. I just scoop my chair back. I don't really think about it, but I just feel so uncomfortable, like I'm in the way. I just want to get out of the way. And sometimes, I don't know that I've ever done this, but ask one of the people, hey, you want to change seats? Yeah, joining in is a glass door. We don't see it, other people do. Number two that I thought of was just that having a right attitude. That's an open door. Particularly if you go to the workplace, that's a job, and you got a right attitude. You're going to work hard, you're going to have a good attitude, and that will take you absolutely nowhere. If you're autistic, I know there are exceptions, but so you go to the workplace, you've got the right attitude, you're working hard, you know the job, and somebody who doesn't have a right attitude, who is kind of lazy, has no idea what they're doing. They are accepted. They may even get promoted. You are passed up. What's going on there? I mean, you thought you were doing it right, and you were. But there was a glass door. That's kind of like the glass ceiling we were talking about. If anybody understands glass ceilings, it's people with autism. But we're talking here more about horizontal moving, so let's go into number three. And I don't know why this one popped in my head, but it did. So you tell me if you can identify with this. But flirting. I got to tell you, I have no idea how to flirt. And I wouldn't know if somebody was flirting with me. And I think maybe they did because I recall back when I was in high school, there were times that girls would come up and be friendly. I don't know if they were friendly or flirting or just being friendly, just being nice, whatever, but I didn't respond because I couldn't. I didn't know how. I was terrified. Why is this person speaking to me? I'm watching this movie and suddenly the actor is talking to me. I mean, this is not right. This is kind of the impression that I'm getting, maybe not in a literal sense, but, if I've said before, life for me and for other people with Asperger syndrome and autism, it's like you're watching a movie. You're not a participant. It's three-dimensional. You're in the middle of it, but everyone else is doing their thing, and you're just kind of there observing. staring at people. They don't like you to do that, but you just do it unconsciously. So, and this was a problem for me when I was a teenager. And I don't know why a girl would flirt with me, because I wasn't athletic by any means. I wasn't particularly attractive. Don't think I was dirt ugly, but I wasn't really attractive. Girls tend to be attracted, they say, to bad guys. You know, I wasn't a bad guy. I didn't know how to be a tough guy. Even if I needed to be, I couldn't even act like one. I didn't know. But for some reason, girls would come around. And I just didn't get it. And again, maybe they weren't flirting with me, but there have been some times where the girl would actually come up and hold my hand. I think that's pretty strong sign. And I'd like, what is this? And I didn't really respond, I guess, the way that you're supposed to respond, and they get mad at me. I had a girl one time come up and kiss me. Okay, a couple times that's happened. And, what is this? Yeah, I had to be the dumbest teenage boy on earth, but I didn't get it, and they'd get mad at me. So that is a type of glass door. You think you just go right through it, but you don't see it. And the other people, this is what's odd, is the other people, in this case, the girl, or if you're a girl, the guy, they expect you to have enough sense to open the door and walk through, and you just run right into it. They say, this guy's weird, and they, turn around and run. The number 4 thing that I thought of, and I have 4 of these, is what I call the glass door of the real me. I just try to be myself. People don't like myself, because they just don't like that oddness that comes along, that is inherent with Asperger's, that is inherent with autism. I just want to be me, and they don't. They don't like that. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The social rejection, the social defeat, the oddness that you project, that you emanate just in your normal, natural personality, that tends to be a glass door. You may not see it. You may think, oh, they'll accept me because, well, I don't know why I accept them, I guess. But we run into the door, then what do? Well, there's this thing called masking, where we try to pretend to be like neurotypical people. Sometimes you can get away with that. Well, as I get older, a lot of times I can get away with that because I'm getting better at it. Still not good at it, but I'm getting better at it. So I'm thinking maybe by the time I'm 120 years old, I'll have it down pat. Nah, probably not. But the problem with masking is that particular glass door is the mask always slips. And maybe there's somebody who saw you before, knows you, and they know you without the mask, and they know it is a mask, and they're more than happy to point it out to other people, maybe not literally say, this guy's weird, be careful. But, they have that wink and nod, that nudge, that smirk that they kind of pass around to other people. I don't know if you've experienced that or not, but yeah. They say this, it says that look in their face says to the other people, this is not the real person. He's actually kind of weird. He's kind of odd. They don't know why. They don't know you're autistic. They don't know you have Asperger syndrome. But the point being, you can wear that mask if you want. I don't think it's necessarily wrong. In fact, I think it's an actually positive thing. Sometimes it's just a matter, as we mentioned earlier, just a matter of courtesy so that you can effectively communicate with other people without coming across as being obnoxious or rude or evasive, because they don't understand. They don't understand. They just think you're being a jerk. Many times, most of the time, my experience. But again, unless you're a really, really, really good actor, and most Aspergers that I know, people with Asperger syndrome, they're not good actors. Some of them are, I'm sure. I've never met one, but there's got to be some out there who can just kind of blur the line. You know, I've seen people who are deaf, and you never know it, because they have learned to communicate, read lips, and they can talk. And if you didn't know they were deaf, you wouldn't know they were deaf. And the same thing is true of blind people, particularly in their own homes. They can move about effortlessly, and if you didn't know they were blind, you wouldn't know they were blind. And there's some people, I'm assuming, with autism. If you didn't know they had autism, you wouldn't know they had autism, because they're good at masking, and they're good at staying in character. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but you just have to be careful, because that mask it can slip, and there's nothing narcissists love better, psychopaths love better than ripping off people's masks. I don't know why, but that's just the way they're hardwired. They think it's fun. Did you get something out of this video? If you did and you've not yet subscribed, shame on you. There's a little button, I think it's green, in the lower right-hand corner of the video, of the screen. Click on that, become a subscriber, give this video a thumbs up. I want to know what you think. I always read the comments, because this channel is small enough I can not only read the comments, but almost always I can respond to them. So if you have a question or something you want to add to the conversation, it's there for you, so feel free to leave a comment.